one of the things that comes to mind is Dave just made that statement that nothing happens outside the knowledge of God. And a lot of people will struggle. They'll go, well, why do bad things happen? Why do, even just big things like earthquakes and natural disasters, and why did that happen? And, how can God let that happen? And I think it's actually really helpful, this chapter on that, because it says, verse 18, I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. For creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. Creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. And then it transitions across to us. We've also been groaning inwardly as we wait for the redemption of our bodies. But what it's talking about is that when Adam and Eve sinned, it didn't just affect humanity. Adam and Eve were actually given dominion over the planet, right? We were given dominion dominion across this planet. And so when sin entered humanity, sin also entered the world. And so we have a broken world, like actually physically broken world. And so things happen in this world, natural disasters or famines or droughts and all those things. That's not how God created the world to operate. But when sin entered Adam and Eve, because Adam and Eve had dominion and had authority over the world, Adam and Eve, handed that authority over to the enemy. And that's why we have a broken planet. And I think for me, that helps sort of make sense of why those kinds of things happen. It's not that God is up there being mean. It's that we actually live in a broken world, a fallen world. And it's groaning, waiting for redemption, waiting for Jesus to return. And that's when we receive our glorified bodies. That then we also, the Bible talks about the new heavens and a new earth. The earth itself will receive its glorified, incorruptible body, which I think is really, for me, it helps just wrestle with those things,
I did in the evening service, and neither of you guys were at the evening service, and I forgive you for this, but the way that I will look to package a message, it needs to be the same message. Essentially, I'm not going to do two different messages on that day. I believe that God's got a word for the church, but yet I understand there's a different demographic. There's a very young, much a younger crowd on a Sunday night. So I actually really delved into this topic of why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad things happen? And the opportunity to walk this through as Christians. And so didn't double click on that for the AM, but certainly for the PM delved into that.
Can I do one more, Jack?
Of course.
One more thing that I would add that, again, just for Dave didn't mention it, but didn't delve in because of time, is where it talks in verse 26 about how the Spirit helps us in our weakness. For we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And Dave beautifully talked about how we, groan before God and our heavenly prayer language and stuff. But I wanted to double tap or drill down or whatever the wording is on that, where it says the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And then it says, and he who searches hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. And so it's actually talking about how the Holy Spirit, who is God himself, is praying to God the Father in accordance with the will of the Father for us. And then if you go down to verse 34, it then talks about Jesus, who died, was raised, is at the right hand of God, and then says, who indeed is interceding for us. So now it's talking about how Jesus, who is also God himself, is also interceding, praying, advocating for us, speaking up for us to the Father.